there's going to be a group of people who watch this and they won't understand how powerful it is. And I will make sure it is my duty now to get them to understand it. So I'll give you where this would have saved me a lot of headache and heartache. In the last 15 years, I've probably produced, 15 years, if you do, let's just say, to be safe, I'll say 300 songs, right? So whether that's produced, actually gotten down with the gear, or Quincy Jones, I've put 3-4 people in a room and said, let's create and let's eat. Much more than 300, but I'll say 300 songs. I'll say of the 300 songs, maybe 20% are still on Spotify and Apple. And the reason the rest aren't is legal. But yeah, even before we get started, it's recording, so this is captured. Our audience is your audience. It's that artist or person in the industry who's at the earlier stages, more than likely. They're not backed by a major, or they may have had a major deal, but really didn't understand what they were in, and now they're independent. And so our community is artists, producers, engineers, managers, booking agents, who are really just trying to navigate this new version of the music business. And our job is to connect them with the right people and tools and resources to help them build successful careers. And so anytime I can have a guest on and have them kind of tell their story, how they got to where they are, and then also just drop gems and give game to that next person, it's important, because for me, it's also there's another you out there, right? You have this super unique story and you've now built this really cool thing. You may not be picking up a guitar, you may not be in the studio mixing and mastering, but you are a crucial piece of what I think this ecosystem needs. And so hopefully somebody listening and watching is going to be the next you who's I don't have to be an engineer or producer or in the studio. I can make a difference with my skill sets and my gifts. So that's why I wanted to have you on, Zach.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And I never had any talent musically. I've always supported, and this feels like a really impactful way to support musicians and other creators. So that gets me excited, because one of the things about art is that it's so commodified. Everyone needs a patron, and I love that we're moving away from that patron system. Now you can be your own creator, own your own career. You don't need a record label to be behind you and give you access to radio. And as people take more control over their own business, they realize all the messy bits and bobs that the record labels were handling when they truly were the only place to go to become a star. Now people have to handle it themselves, and it's a lot of tedious work. And so I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible, because getting the legal right sets up getting your payments right. And that's really what we're trying to get to.
I love it. Okay. So that's an amazing why and kind of intro. But for someone who has no idea who you are, they're clicking on this because they see whatever beautiful picture we post up of you, and we put, whatever the title is going to be, changing the industry, legal, Who is Zach? Introduce yourself. Give your elevator pitch of you specifically.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a longtime music lover. I remember saving up my lunch money from my mom to go to concerts when I was in high school. Always loved music, but knew that I had to make ends meet because I couldn't actually make music. So went to college at U of A, then ended up going to law school at Berkeley, ended up going into corporate law for these big international firms, worked in San Francisco for 3 years. All the while I was still going to concerts, still hanging out with my friends who are artists. And at some point, one of my friends was like, yo, you should be my manager. And I was like, okay, that's wild. Let's do it. Let's just do this. Yes, let's do it. I don't have a wife or kids or mortgage, anything. So if I'm ever going to do it, let's do it now, because we had already set up a tour through India, Southeast Asia, and Australia. And I was like, this is sick. This is going to be the best 6 months of my life. Well, we had this oral agreement that he was going to pay me. He ended up backing out. And I was like, dude, I can't get on that plane unless you actually sign something that says I'm going to get paid. And he's like, I can't do that. I was like, well, I'm not going to get on that plane. And it wasn't a bluff, but I had already subleased my apartment, quit my job, everything. So I was unemployed, homeless. I was just like, what do I do? And I really didn't want to go back to doing the corporate law stuff. So I decided to move to Los Angeles. I ended up getting a job at United Talent Agency as an assistant to the head of electronic music, which was really fun. That was a great finishing school for the industry. really learn all the ins and outs, like especially how the touring game works. And after 2 years of doing that, I transitioned back into law, but I ended up working at an entertainment law boutique in Beverly Hills called King, Holmes, Paterno, and Soriano. We represented Tyler, the Creator, Frank Ocean, Dr. Dre, Metallica. And because I had that really good corporate background, I kind of played a dual role where I helped these big artists with their ventures, and I also helped them with their entertainment work, record deals, publishing deals, clearance agreements. So yeah, for example, I helped Metallica start their liquor company, Blackened, for their whiskey brand. And I also did a bunch of music clearance work for Steve Aoki. I mean, it was just a blast. It was really fun. But the hardest part of that job was just trying to figure out how to get all these simple agreements done for my clients, because we had all these producer agreements stacked up, mixer agreements stacked up, Cyrus agreements, and they were just taking months, like 5, 6, 7 months to get these agreements done. And music was getting delayed. Like, people couldn't release their music, they couldn't tour, they couldn't make money. And it was just so crazy. I was like, this is so simple. And that's when I was just like, all right, we got to make this better.
I love it, man.
That's the long way around to how I got to where I am today.
No, that's a hell of a journey, and one that I think a lot of people listening will resonate with, because it obviously you start with like, all right, I'm going to school, then you get out and you get the job and you realize like that's not for me. You help a friend out and go through that and learn the hard way about, you know, what that world looks like. We've all been there. I've been there multiple times, hard-headed. And then I love that you said UTA was school for you, because that, you know, for a lot of us is that, right? You have to get exposed to an establishment, people who are doing it at the highest level, the biggest level, to really understand how this thing works. And then once you understand that, when you go to the boutique or the smaller, you know, whatever it is, law firm, agency, label, you kind of take now this institutional knowledge and you craft it with your personality and you find your niche, which is amazing. And then, like any entrepreneur, you see a problem and you're like, wait a minute, like, I think I can solve this problem with my unique skill set and relationships. And that problem solving thing that you created, which is Charter, is, and then I don't say this often, but is I think game changing for our industry. And I think the last time I said that phrase for our industry was when I saw Spotify for the first time. Like, because I remember pre-Spotify when you had Pandora, which was, you know, you couldn't pick your songs. You had Kazaa, which, you know, click the wrong thing and your PC is jacked, or you getting something, you know, not family friendly, and it was illegal, but you know that we were that generation. And then I remember the first time someone showed me Spotify and they pressed play, and I like saw it play instantly, and I was like, wait, you just picked the song, and then they picked another song and another song, and I was like, what's the trade-off? Like, how are you doing this? And in that first like 2 days of Spotify, where you're searching every song you can imagine to see if they have it, and they had it. Yeah. Like, I remember that, like, oh, this is going to change the game. And it has. When I was introduced to Charter by our guy Modi, who is my connector with All Cool Things, he really, like, he didn't big you up, but he was like, you need to check this out. And I was like, all right, Modi, like, what is it? He's like, yo, it's contracts. Like, you'll get it. And then I'm, you know, I get on and like, I'm trying to see it. And then like, luckily he connected us. And when you guys like walked me through it, my mind, like, I couldn't shut my brain off, because I was like, wait a minute, like, this is going to save thousands of dollars for people and hundreds of hours. And once it becomes the standard, you're not going to have the issues that we've run into. So like, I mean, obviously I'm telling you everything you know, but hopefully somebody listening and watching this will be like, yo, let me go see what Yudu's ranting on about, because yo, Charter is the truth. So like you run into this issue of these agreements are taking too long. I feel like I can simplify it. Walk us through like, what is Charter? Because now obviously I've spoken, but like, what is Charter for the person that's going to try this for the first time?
Definitely, yeah. So let me bridge that with the like sort of aha moment behind Charter that let us build the platform the way we built it. So as I was thinking through like how to speed all this up, I got to this point where I was like, what if one of my clients came to me with all the terms that they wanted already pre-negotiated with the other party? At that point, the only thing I would have to do as a lawyer is write up the final draft, give it to him to sign. That's all I'd have to do. And so it's like, how do we get those two people to that point in a way that doesn't require lawyers? And that's the exact idea behind Charter. And the way it works is that each party on Charter goes through this questionnaire where they get to select all the terms they want in the agreement. They get to do it independently of each other. And after they do that, we take those two offers and compare them. And we put you into a dashboard that shows you exactly where you guys don't agree. And then you can negotiate back and forth using our dashboard. You can say, yeah, that term's fine, or no, I want this other term. And you don't have to pick up a phone, go to email, text, anything like that. You can do it all on the platform, and you're doing it all in plain English. And to the extent that you need resources to answer a question, we give it to you. We try to make this as user-friendly as possible, as supportive as possible, so you don't feel like you have to go on Google and look up something or hit up your lawyer or anything like that. And then once the parties have gone back and forth and you've figured out all the terms and you've agreed to all the terms, all in plain English, at that point, it's really simple for us. We have a huge database of contractual provisions. And once we know exactly what you want, we assemble that contract for you. That's a custom contract, law firm quality contract, the exact contract you would have paid me $4,000 for at King Homes. And it's right there for you. And you get to sign it in the dashboard, just like Panda Docs. We save it for you. And we put you into this negotiation summary that's all plain English, lays out the terms for you. Once you sign the contract, we convert that into a plain English summary of what's in the contract. So you never have to look at an agreement more than once. And that's only when you sign it. So I think it's just revolutionary in that sense, top to bottom, that we've taken this process and flipped it on its head, because what lawyers try to do is get that draft of the agreement in front of you as soon as possible. They take 2-3 terms, they add the other 20, and they just give you the document. They're like, here you go. And that's super overwhelming and confusing to people. Most people don't speak legalese or 19th century English. And what we've done is just say, no. Don't worry about the contract yet. Let's get everything lined up, all in plain English. And once we're there, then we can produce a final legal document for both parties to sign.
Man, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. There's going to be a group of people who watch this and they won't understand how powerful it is. And I will make sure it is my duty now to get them to understand it. So I'll give you where this would have saved me a lot of headache and heartache. In the last 15 years, I've probably produced, 15 years, if you do, let's just say, to be safe, I'll say 300 songs, right? So whether that's produced, actually gotten down with the gear, or I've Quincy Jones, I put 3-4 people in a room and said, let's create and let's eat. Much more than 300, but I'll say 300 songs. I'll say of the 300 songs, maybe 20% are still on Spotify and Apple. And the reason the rest aren't is legal. Is a producer didn't have what they weren't happy, an artist wasn't happy, someone had to take it down, sample, whatever it is. We did a grant program for artists where we brought a bunch of artists in, we created together, we donated our time, donated studio, and we put out dozens of records. As the years passed, some of the artists blew up, some of them not so much. We had an opportunity to move that catalog into a sync, catalog. So for licensing and sync, we reached out to everybody who was a part of the music and said, hey, those songs we worked on 6-7 years ago, we want to move them over, but they're saying that we need to get legal in place. We can't just use songs without contracts. So what's a fair contract? It was almost like pulling teeth. It was like some people I don't like this. Some people I'm not sure. Some people were terrified. We ended up taking down most of the music. If not all, we took all the music down from our DSP, and the artists who re-uploaded it had to negotiate. It just became very nasty. And for something that was well-intentioned in the beginning, for something that was the purpose was to show collaboration, I have to put my hand up and say, as a person who put it together, I didn't dot I's and cross T's with the legal, because you know what it is. When you're starting out, you're not in the studio thinking about production agreements and work for hires. And that's just not the vibe in the studio. Right. If this had existed then, we would have just pulled up Charter in the studio the day we created, had everybody go through the terms together, signed it, and I'd still have 300 plus songs out that I could point to and say, wow, that's a piece of our history. So I share that story because right now somebody's listening to this who's released music. They have songs on Spotify and Apple. They've worked with a producer. They've worked with songwriters. They've worked with guitarists, keyboardists, whatever, engineers, and they have no paperwork. And so the first thing I would do if I'm that person and that song means something is I would visit Charter and I would retroactively start getting the agreements for my songs in place, because you don't want to be where I am, where less than 20% of your catalog is actually out into the world. So is that kind of obviously with new songs, Charter makes sense, but are you guys also looking to help people kind of retroactively clean up their catalogs and get their legal together?
100%. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of big managers, and one of the things they talk about when they bring on developing acts is getting their business correct, going back through the catalog and being like, hey, like this stuff is uploaded, but you don't have any paperwork for it. So we got to make you legit. Like we have to go back through and get all these agreements in place. So that's definitely something we want to help people with. That's something that it's kind of a dirty secret in the industry, I suppose, but a lot of people just release music without having the contracts done because they can't wait. Especially in genres like hip hop where stuff just moves too fast. You can't sit in a song for 6 months. Like if it's hot, it's got to get out now. Yeah. And I totally get that. And it makes total sense to me. I have a ton of empathy for creators not wanting to get into the legal because it's painful, it's expensive. The way it's currently done, it's not user friendly, and it just doesn't fit into the process. There's no obvious connection to the process for the legal. You're like, this guy's my friend. Like we made a song together. Like we already agreed to it over text. Like it's all good. Like what's the point of doing this? And why am I going to spend $4,000? Like, yeah, this song might blow up, but $4,000 is more than I have to like spend on my studio. Why am I going to do that for one agreement? For one song? I'm trying to put 12 songs out this year, and I totally get it. I absolutely get it. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, it's really interesting how that works, and we just want to become a more fluid part of the process. It's painless. That's just like you bang it out. It's all transparent. You just talk about what's going to happen after you release a song. That's really what it should be when it comes to negotiating a contract. It's just having a conversation like, hey, am I going to give you credit? Am I going to pay you a fee? Am I going to pay you royalties? Like, if you use a sample, I didn't know about it. Like, we're gonna have to figure that out. Like, so tell me if there's a sample in it so I can get it cleared. And if I find out later that you stole someone's song, like you're gonna have to reimburse me for my legal fees. Like, that's the tone of the conversation that it should be. It shouldn't be like, all right, I'm gonna tell my lawyer what we want. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden the other guy's lawyer is telling him I'm trying to screw him over. It's all this tension. We don't want to ruin the vibe. We just want to be a fluid part of the process and just help people get to where they want to be, which is releasing art, being an artist, not pretending like they're a lawyer, not dealing with lawyers, not dealing with accountants. Like I totally empathize with that.
Yeah. I mean, so, I tested it out before this because obviously when I got the demo from you guys, I was blown away. And then I said, I'm going to go try it out with a song I'm releasing, sent it to the artist because I have a little bit more legalese and understanding. I've done this enough. So I sent it to a brand new artist who I'm producing a record with. And he got through it in, maybe 15 minutes the first time. We went back and forth and texting as we're doing it. So he's like, hey, man, like, just so you're cool, like the likeness thing, I'd rather this. And I was like, all right, no problem. And, so we're going back and forth. What I loved about it was like, when I'm in a room with a lawyer and my lawyers, if they were on this, they will let you know. I don't care how long a contract is. They have one job. I'm like, yo, bullet point each section for me so I understand what it's saying, because that 40 pages you put in front of me, I'm never going to read it. But if you can give me, 12 bullet points, I can tell you whether I rock with it or not. And that's what Charted does to me, like the person who's not going to go a lawsuit or like you said, it's like basic things like, yo, are you going to get credit for this? Yo, am I paying you up front? Yo, are you getting paid on the back end? If you are, when do I have to give you your money? How am I giving you your money? Yo, if I'm creating, do you get to use this for promotional use? If so, in what form? Can you create a lyric video? Can you create a music video? No or yes? Like, that's what a contract is, right? And when you get lawyers involved, like you said, they usually like dump on all this other stuff. It's like, because I'm getting paid, I'm going to throw everything I learned in law school into this contract. And you end up with like a 30-page document for like a 3-minute song that's going to get 2,000 plays on Spotify. I don't think that's needed. So I love the approach. Now, I know right now you guys, obviously there's a podcast. One day people have watched this and Charter by then will be the industry. I'm calling it. But you guys are starting with like the producer and artist agreement. Right now, I think it's free for anyone to try or to use, which is amazing. So we're going to get this podcast out like in the next couple of days. I want everyone to go try it for free. But tell me what you like envision for Charter, like in the future, like how do you continue to simplify the business of music for our industry?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do at the top of next year is make available a producer agreement, which is already available, a mixer agreement, a side artist agreement, and a work for hire agreement, because those 4 agreements are the agreements you need to clear the rights in a master and the final audio file of the song. And once we do that, we can start adding additional layers on top of those contracts where you can see project views. You can be like, hey, here's my song, type in your collaborators, and then you can track whether or not the agreement is done with each one of those collaborators. That way it just becomes this really powerful project management tool for independent artists, because one of the other issues with legal is you're always trying to chase down stuff over email. You're like, when did I send the email to that guy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is he supposed to get back to me, or am I supposed to get back to him? Like, what are the issues for this? My clients ask me that question all the time. And, those are really sophisticated managers and artists. If you're an indie artist or a developing artist, that's really hard to keep track of. And it's something you didn't even want to engage with in the first place. So you're probably kind of putting it off. What we want to do is just make everything really transparent, easy to use. We want to make it more of a project management tool. So that way you can like go through and be like, hey, is my paper done? And then once you get through it all, you're like, yeah, I'm good. And if anyone ever asks you, hey, we want to sync this song, do you have all the agreements in place? You can be like, absolutely. If they're like, hey, shoot it over. If you sign with a label later and they're like, hey, like who's in on the splits for the song? You'd be like, these 3 guys, and then send them PDFs of the contracts with those people instantly. So there's no delay of getting those deals signed, because one of the other issues that I've noticed with indie and developing artists is they get that label deal and the label's like, hey, we want to put money behind this song that's like trending, but we got to make sure that we can actually get the rights in it from you. And if we can't, then we can't put money behind it, because someone might take it down or like come up and be like, hey, I own half of this master.
I've had that happen as well. Like that's a future. Like, so within the next 2-3 years, once Charter's kind of, I think, really created a new approach for protection of IP, because that's really what you're doing, protecting IP. And the industry is using it, because I do think, like, I like the word developing. The idea of independent versus majors is really going to dissolve, I think, in the next few years. And you're just going to have either like established artists, middle class artists, or like developing artists. Do you see a world where like record labels and like bigger entities are using Charter as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this system can be applied to any contract ever, in any language around the world. I mean, we could have somebody who's a Latin artist signing with Universal Music Latin in Miami, and someone might be working from the Universal office in English, and the person getting the contract might be doing it in Spanish. Like, we could do worldwide. Like, there's nothing stopping us from using this for any contract in any industry. It doesn't even have to be music. We're thinking about gaming, video, like you name it, we can get into it. But yeah, for now, the focus is music, the creator economy. In 2 to 3 years, we definitely want indie, like labels, publishers, you name it, to be using us. We've already had publishers and labels reach out to us because they see the value of this, and they're like, hey, a lot of independent labels are now taking on a little bit of the clearance work for their artists, because they know like this artist doesn't have any legal, they have no resources, let's just do it for them. And they're doing a bunch of producer agreements, which is interesting, because the industry used to never, ever do that. They never wanted to touch any clearances. They're like, you got to take care of it yourself. I mean, they still put ultimate responsibility on the artist, but at least they're helping out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, these labels are hitting us up being like, can we use you guys? Like, can we like create a custom solution for our artists? And the answer is yes. So I think it's going to be sort of almost like a legal operating system for the whole industry, where we're going to be the iOS of contracts. Like, everyone's going to be on our platform, they'll be using us. And then if someone tries to compete with us, it's going to be like trying to switch all of your contacts over from your iPhone to your Galaxy, and it's not going to be very easy.
Well, I already told you, because we were building something similar. And when I saw what you built, like, this is a testament of how good it is. I told you on our first call, I was like, dude, like, I'm just shutting down building what I was building and just going to like support you, because I'd rather just plug into what you have, because it's well done. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. If someone's invented the wheel, just like use their wheel. So that's like, for anyone who's listening or watching and like trust me or is here because they know like I'm for the artist. What you built is so good that I shut down like an entire production of a tech platform or tool that I was building for our platform. And I was like, let's just figure out how to like plug that into our thing, because you guys have done a really, really good job. Even with just the first contract, like I said, having used it for a song, I've paid thousands of dollars in legal fees over the years, and I've never felt more comfortable at the other side of signing than I did with this contract with you guys. And that says a lot. Like, that says a lot. And so, I'm obviously here to help and support our artists in the 24/7 artist community. Will definitely use Charter. And as you guys continue to grow and become the legal operating system, the other thing I love about it is you were so open. You're like, hey, here's my contact. Like, reach out if you have any problems. Like, our team will help you through it. A lot of people aren't doing that. So as an artist now is using your platform, would you still advise them to kind of have a lawyer, or like what's kind of like a developing artist? I'll say, like, I'm a new artist. I'm putting out a song with my homie. We're using Charter. Am I good, or should I still have some kind of like legal connection or consulting or consult?
Yeah, I think if what you see in Charta fits your needs, like if you go through the process and you're like, I feel very comfortable, feel like everything I want has been touched on, then you should be fine, I think. But if you're like, hey, like I'm not sure, or there's this one thing I want that Charta doesn't have, then you might need some legal help from an attorney. We're not trying to replace attorneys. What I'm trying to do selfishly as a former attorney is really clear the plate for attorneys of all the simple high volume contracts that people realistically should be able to do themselves. There's no reason why a lawyer should be doing a 6-page agreement that's super simple and charging you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. That doesn't make sense. And for the lawyer, all those agreements just stack up and they prevent you from getting to the record deals, the publishing deals, the touring deals. And yeah, I think that's kind of the way I see it, is that this is kind of like, if I had to automate myself, I'm automating myself for these simple agreements for you. And if you don't trust automated Zach, that's cool. There's probably a lawyer out there that can help you and give you something that's a little bit more custom. But we've gone through, and that's the real secret behind this platform, is that we have done all the hard work to map out all the decision trees, all the conditionality, all the possible provisions you could ever need. And we can account for like 700 to 800 unique scenarios between a producer and an artist with just one agreement. So if you exceed that, if you're too complicated for that, then yeah, I mean, you're probably doing some pretty big stuff. Like you might be doing like territory swaps or credit swaps or like, you know, producer swaps, et cetera. And if you're at that point, you might need an attorney. But at the very least, the great thing about Charta is that if you go through the process and realize you've hit that roadblock, you're at least totally familiar with 99% of what's going to be in that contract when you go to the attorney. So if you're like, hey, I just need this one extra thing, you can already have all the other terms pre-agreed to, and just go to the attorney and be like, hey, like here's my Charta deal summary for you. Check it out. We want to add this one thing. Mm-hmm. That way you're not going back and forth for weeks, months with this attorney and the other person's attorney. You can be very, very targeted. So even if you do end up using an attorney, you're going to save a lot of time and money.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Yeah. And one of the things you guys do a great job of is on every page, you guys explain that term in layman's terms. So like, you know, are you using a sample? And then you click, and then like, you know, are you getting an advance? Click, like, and each of those bubbles that pop up that kind of explain what that term is are done in such a simple way that, again, you don't have to have any legal background to say, oh, okay, no, I am giving them an advance, or I'm not giving them an advance, or I am paying them on the back end, or I'm not paying them on the back end. So you guys did a great job of that. And that was me in the room. Hey guys, I need the bullet point so I can like say yes or no.
Yeah. I mean, some lawyers might get mad at me for this, but I don't think the value of a lawyer is like gatekeeping information from their clients. I don't think that's something that lawyers do that's in any way valuable. Like if you're a lawyer and you don't tell your client what's going on, or you can't tell your client what's going on because you're just so focused on the document and the technical language, the legalese, I don't see that as being a part of the value of being an attorney. Yeah. I think the highest, best thing that an attorney can do, and the thing that we're best equipped to do, is like spot future issues, help you creatively problem solve, and get out of really complex situations, or get into really complex situations in a way that's protecting your interests. It's kind of ridiculous to me that people just don't know what's in an agreement. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're going to pay me $500 to tell you what something says?
Yeah.
Really? I just don't agree with that on a fundamental level. I think it just having to do that, and it's weird because as an attorney, like I always felt weird, like people just like trusting me. I took that really seriously. I was like, this is a serious thing. Like this person doesn't know what's in this agreement. I like tried to explain it to them. They're just like, I don't want to hear it. Just take care of it. And it's like, whoa, that's a ton of responsibility on me. Like, yeah. I don't want you to get upset later if you find out what it actually says. Like, I really want you to know what's in this. And I think that personal sort of ethics of mine has translated into this platform, where it's like, you should know what's in your agreement. Not in a way that's like super overwhelming and technical, but just be like, this is what it means. Like, get to the bottom line, to the bullet point, as you said, and just be like, this is what it means.
Man.
Like, why do you have to go to a lawyer to know what, like, how an advance works?
Yeah. Nah, you guys nailed it. I'm excited to be an evangelicus for it. I'm excited to hold the charter flag up and say, look, guys, like, you know, I put a lot of people on the Spotify early on, and I feel like I'm gonna do the same for Charter, just because like it makes life easier. My dad used to make me download all his old jazz albums on Kazaa because he was like, oh, find this Coltrane album, or find this, you know, Muddy Waters album. And then like once he understood I could get every song, like I was like his music plug. And then when Spotify came out, I was so happy to be like, yo, Dad, I'm downloading this thing on your computer. I'm going to sit you down and show you how it works. And it took a little bit, but once he got it, he was in music heaven, because now he could type in every album, every song, every, and it just solved the problem for him. I feel like what that did for music lovers and listeners is what Charter is going to do for creators. And when you look at the numbers and the stats of like the amount of songs that are released per day now, and again, the reason I've started 24/7 Artists is I know that there are millions of artists out there that aren't even accounted for in our world who have yet to even put out their first song. I'm excited for this new generation that's coming up who will only know Charter, right? Who will only know like, oh, I do legal for my song. It's not, I'm from the world of, yo, it's hip hop, it's fast. We did a song, we're excited. Like, let's put it out next week, upload it to the distributor, it's out. And then 2 years later, it's like, you beefing because now the person like hasn't paid you because you don't like, or like, yo, they shot a video for it. No one asked me. Like, all the things that you've covered, I've dealt with in real life, and most of the time it's not, at least in my experience, having been on both sides, I don't think people are malicious. I think you move quick. You don't know what you don't know. And then by the time it's addressed, it's an issue. And then that tension comes where now that person that was the homie in the studio is now on the other side of, they got a lawyer. Now I got to find a lawyer, but I don't know a lawyer, but I got a cousin that went to law school. So now he or she is going to be my lawyer. And now it's like legal battle going on in emails when it's like, dude, the song got 3,000 streams. Nobody's made any money, but y'all are arguing about who owns what. Charter to me solves that. And I know so many people have gone through that and will go through that issue. I just pray they see and listen to this so that they can benefit, because again, had this been around 12, 13 years ago, I'd have a much more impressive catalog. So
yeah, one of the great things about being a lawyer in private practice is you just see so many cases, so many deals. You get a really high level view. You get to see trends. And one of the biggest trends when it comes to litigation is people typically go into litigation for one of two reasons. The first one is someone did something they definitely shouldn't have done. It was obvious. And then the other one is someone did something where the other party didn't know they could do that.
That's yeah. I feel like I'm the second one where it's like, I mean, you look back and laugh. We had contracts that my wife and I would literally just like write up, and it just was like, yo, we're not paying a lawyer $800. Like we're giving the studio time, but it's not like, we're not here for that. We just want something that allows us to use your name and likeness, and like, you keep the music, keep the money. But even those contracts didn't hold up because like you don't think of these little things that, again, if you don't know, you don't know. So I share that, my story and my journey, our journey, because I laugh. I see young people who own studios, or who now everybody has a home studio set up, like who create together, and you ask them like, yo, so what's the splits? And it's like, oh, we don't know. So yo, like, who's the feature artist? Or I'm not sure. Like, yo, like the distributor on what platform? I don't know. How are you going to get paid? I don't. It's like these basic, simple things that today there's no excuse not to know that. So thank you for building Charter. I'm not going to hold too much of your time. I'm sure in this episode we'll show screenshots of like me using the Charter, and like obviously we'll plug it. We'll make sure that like the link is live for the people who do get a chance for the free. I'm excited for their feedback. How can people reach out who are interested, who are using it, who are having issues? What's the best way for them to kind of connect with Charter?
Yeah, so on our website, we have a ticket you can fill out and submit if you have any issues. If you want to just directly email support@getcharter.com, you can absolutely do that. We'll get to you as soon as possible. But yeah, that's the best way to reach out to us. If you want to do a partnership, also support@getcharter.com works to reach out to us. We're monitoring that every day. So yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with us. And I just wanted to sort of put a capstone on all this. And this is like beyond like the nuts and bolts, the software, the actual service that we're delivering. I really believe that this is something like this platform is something that's going to help people's mental health. I really do. And as someone who's suffered from depression and anxiety, I really empathize with people being overwhelmed, like getting a contract, being like, I just don't want to deal with this, like procrastinating, putting it off, knowing they should do something and then not doing it. And I really think that one of the best things about this platform is that it just puts everything right in front of you in a really easy way. And it just takes a weight off of your shoulders. That's what I'm so passionate about. Like, I can make $1 million, $1 billion. It doesn't even matter to me, really. It's just about making the world a better place and making it easier for artists to create their art and put it out there without having to worry. Like, because people, they have this nagging little thing in the back of their head that's like, I should have some paperwork in place. I should know what the splits are. Like, like, like this guy's hitting me up on Venmo for money, like, like that, and it's just needless. Like all we're trying to do is help people, number one, get the service to help them with the paperwork, and number two, and equally important, just stress less about this.
That's beautiful, man. And that's a beautiful why. And again, why I believe Charter will be very successful is it's starting with the right intention. It's got people connected to it on the legal and technical side who know what they're doing. So it's a level of expertise, subject matter expertise. So starting with the right intention, right expertise and background, and then just the timing. I feel like we're right at the beginning of a boom for this developing artist, middle class artist world, people who are surviving and making a living with just their talents. And it only will happen because of things like Charter that allow for exactly what you just said. If it's one less thing to worry about as an artist, creator, entrepreneur, how much more will you be able to do? And that's the unknown, like that's that intangible that you can't even factor in. I'm sure when you guys were raising capital and like sending decks out, you were using like existing numbers and there are this many artists and this many songs. But what I know, and I think what you know, is as a result of Charter, that number is going to explode. And I'm excited to be on this journey with you. I'm excited to partner with you guys. And again, I will make sure every artist I know at least tries it once. And obviously, I'm a user, I'm a client, and will put out more records myself as a result of it, because it definitely was a piece of headache for me. Only thing I need you to help me solve next is help me clear samples quicker. I'm a sample producer and I'm still waiting for clearance for 3 samples. And that's, that's a world that when we can clear samples easier and quicker, TrackLib I think is doing a great job, but like those random samples that are gold that aren't on TrackLib, when you're trying to clear a master and a publishing, it is, I'm 8 months waiting for a response. Not even like I have the number. I don't even know, just help me there one day, please. Yeah.
Well, the thing about that is you have these people at the majors who are handling these sample clearances, and there's just not that many of them. Mm-hmm. It's like a team of 8-10 people who are overseeing an entire catalog, and they're just getting constant requests to sample. And it's really difficult for them to prioritize and to get to everybody. If it takes them 15 minutes to get back to everybody, they're still going to take 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks to get back to you at least. So I think one of the cool things that Charter can do as we work with the majors and even indie labels and even indie artists is we can set up these systems where you can just have standing offers for samples. Be like, if you want to sample my song and you have less than this many monthly listeners, then it's this rate. If you have more, it's that rate. And if you have more than 10 million, it's this rate. And it could just be passively there waiting for someone to make an offer. And if, maybe you want some creative control. So every time a request comes in for a certain amount, you have to look at it. You have to be like, this fits or it doesn't fit. But at least like automate away a lot of that just paperwork and administration. Because it's super tedious. Like we had to chase down samples at King Holmes and it would take forever for us. And like we're representing some of the biggest artists in the world. So like people who are just indies trying to do the right thing, trying to get the rights to use a sample, good luck. You might never get a response. 8 months, that sounds about right.
So for fans of the Aretha record I did with Earth Gang, I hope y'all hear that. It's not on me because I get DMs all the time. I produced the record with Earth Gang and we try to get it on their deluxe. We pushed it back multiple times and we could not get this clearance for this Aretha Franklin record. And, it's heartbreaking because it's on me. I'm the producer, but like you said, you work for one of the largest law firms in the world and couldn't get stuff cleared quickly. So I'm excited because I see that's where Charter's heading. I could see exactly what you're talking about, an automated system where these labels and these publishing companies can just upload catalogs and set these standards. And then like I log into Charter and say, hey, this is a song. Here's my Spotify profile. Here's the artist Spotify profile. And then offer back and forth the same automated. The day that happens, world, y'all going to get tired of my production because then I'm going to start releasing real music.
Yeah, and the people that are running the samples departments are going to be on the beach having a pina colada because all that can happen automatically because they can set the rules. They can be like, we won't accept anything less than this. Yeah. They can set reserves. We can auto respond on their behalf. So like when you're going back and forth, you're not even going back with a real, like a human because the label has already said, like, we're not going to take less than X. Yep. So once you hit X, perfect.
You good. Damn. World. All right, man. Well, Zach, thank you so much for your time. I know you did this on short notice. I wanted to get it out because, again, while this is free to use and like free to try, every artist I know will definitely do it at least once, even for the back catalog stuff. And then for the people who watch or listen to this and it's no longer free, you should have listened earlier. It's on you. However, still give it a try because it is more than worth it. I don't stamp too many products and like put my name behind too many things, especially early, unless I really see the value, and I see the value in Charter. So this is not a paid endorsement. I'm not like, this is like legit excitement for something that I know will help artists, and that's my passion. So thank you again, brother. I appreciate your time. And we'll do a lot more with the 24/7 artists and Charter connection. We got some stuff cooking up, but for now, let's focus on getting as many artists to get their business in order so that more music, less litigation, less stress.
Absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, brother. Thank you.